Yeah.
There's probably a couple
She's in the
others.
van. I always look I'm at football games. I'm like, oh,
All right, y'all. Thank you guys for coming to the school board meeting.
that would be a
Just doing some laps. Move back. Oh, I could have gone that way. This is more exciting for me. Thank you. All right, let's start off with, thanks all for coming. Roll call.
Is absent. And Kim? Here. John?
Here.
And Deb?
Here.
All right, thanks for making it and saying hi to everybody. Let's start off with the approval of the agenda. Motion?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's do it. And you said, Gail, the person for the public forum is unable to make it. Okay, perfect. Got that.
Perfect.
I just meant, sorry, got that.
Hopefully she's not.
Next time you can come next year, but is there any update on the
Papers, the hard copies, if no one printed them off yet, I did bring them. They're over there if you want to grab them. Otherwise, Thursday?
Yep.
And that's 11 to 2 is what
Yep.
we were in here. Yeah, it's a work session. Carrie, you said something about in those 18, 19 district priorities and annual goals. You said something that you wanted to
yes,
bring about.
for the IPI, we did our, we just did our third go-round of data collection. And so we've done it. We've already had our building meetings, goal setting, and then we have the last round will be at the end of April. We are training another, I think, 11 people the week after spring break. We get to do it in-house again, which is so nice. That the teachers don't, I mean, it's enough to plan for a sub, but then all they have to do is come here. So we're excited.
And how many data collections, that makes how many have we done?
Our goal is to do 4 a year.
Right, but then
So we did 2 last year, so now we're at 5.
5, yeah.
I'm excited. I like that cadence of 4 a year. That'll be pretty awesome.
So the snow days kind of, threw a little wrench, but not too bad.
Snow days are messing us up this year. And then John, too, thank you for being flexible on Thursday. I really appreciate your schedule around
That
it.
worked out fine. I didn't see how that was going to work that week, but that worked out great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Looks like no snow in the forecast, so that's good.
Yeah.
And then also actually just acknowledge, we have some of our admin team is out. Obviously, we have conferences now, so they're away. So I mean, we have just an abbreviated admin.
Yeah, very abbreviated.
We're gonna have all the questions to be directed right to you.
Right.
Excellent. And then Lindsay, you wanted to update us on the snow days specifically?
Yeah, it has been quite a wonder. Right now, as we said, and that could change, we have 6 full days that we missed, 3 late starts and 1 early out. As we speak right now, the last day would be on June 6th. And I don't know how much you dig into it or want to dig into it, but the state requires that we have a minimum of 1080 or 1,080 hours. We build in extra time into the calendar. So like when we run late, 2 hour late, that allows us to do a couple things. It allows us to get some daylight. It allows us to have them run the roads. That's built in, so we're not, starving our kids for their education there. We put in this calendar year approximately 41 hours to kind of handle that. That should be, I mean, it's been a tough winter, and that's going to be something that's we're able to do. One of the things that I just wanted to put out as an informational item or a report is the fact that we're running into things. This is unusual. 6 days. I don't know that I've had 6 days in the time that I've been a superintendent, but that's not. It's there, and
And you're not throwing it down as a challenge, right?
No, it's not. No, not at all.
We're going for 7 next year.
One of the things that we do have coming up, and this is something that we do at our middle school, is they do a Washington, D.C. trip. And that's, we say that that's not a school-sponsored activity, but it involves our kids. There'd probably be about 40 kids that would be involved in that, plus 2 staff members and Mr. Danielson for an administrator. What we talked about administratively is trying to do some different things. Some of our surrounding schools have come out and said that they will not make up anything or make up, whatever. I would like you to kind of keep in your mind the possibility of taking and moving. We have some of the extra time moving our date back that we would get out. Will they be back? So that they would be out on the 4th. That's a 12:30 dismissal. And then if your son or daughter would be going to Washington, D.C., they could hit the plane. I'm keeping the track with Mike as far as what time you're leaving, And we should be in the later in the afternoon, so that could accommodate things. This is a tough decision or a tough thing because normally what we've done is if we missed them, we made them up. This is, in my opinion, somewhat of a compromise because what we're going to do is we're going to be making up a good portion of those. And what we're looking at doing is taking off because of the extra hours. It'd be a day and a half. Let's see what else is there.
But we'd still be within our 1080.
Yeah, we will. Okay. That won't be a problem. I think that whichever camp you're in, if you have people that are going to school here, they want to know what we're doing. I think we owe that to them. We said that we didn't have to do anything as far as a hearing on this one. Is that right? But this is not an action item either. So,
we're not done with.
Yeah. Bite your tongue.
And the other thing we probably want to is it's just students.
Yeah.
We have a contractual agreement with the staff. So they're on days. So our days are for staff, for teachers is 187, so we have to fulfill that.
So what would they be there till this?
July.
There was 1 day past, so it would be June 7th.
Yeah. Now, and this is another thing that we talked about. If we're going to do this, we're not going to have people, our teachers are going to do professional development. We're going to make it valuable.
Yep.
If we don't have your kids here, we're going to make darn sure that what we're doing is something of value. So if we talk to people out there, you can assure them that, because that's one of the things I said to our administrative team, and Carrie can attest to this. We just can't say, oh, it's the work in your room type of day. No, we want to do something and we want to make it productive.
I appreciate that.
But we like, as in what Gail said, that we don't know what's going to happen. Now, our next meeting is the 8th of April, correct? So what we'll probably do is probably bring that to you. If it's all right, I may have put something out to the parents and just say, I have approached that. The board has not taken any action on that. Do you have a problem with that? Or I'm not trying to put you in the hot spot, so if you would prefer that I don't say anything, I can.
I'd like to know myself.
That's what people are.
It sounds like we have enough hours that you could call the 4th the last day no matter what, right? We haven't used them all.
No,
the
not
41
at all.
that you built in.
No, out of the 41 that we built in, we haven't used hardly any of them.
Right. So I guess I don't feel uncomfortable with you speculating and telling the parents what you're deciding, because even if, heaven help us, we have another snow day, we're still covered, right?
Yeah.
So rather than just have a frivolous day just to put a day in, I would rather see us call it and be good.
Okay, I think I'll go from there then, if that's all right. Does anyone else have any comments? Because I do not want to go against any of your wishes for this situation. But
I appreciate the work that you guys have done. I know I asked a lot of questions as well, and a lot of things came up about some districts using virtual, and that's just not okay. That's not illegal. That's not okay according to the Department of Education. And research that. I think you reached out and you looked at stuff, and I appreciate that, because people do make plans, and you're right, you're always kind of at a risk if you're in that first week or so, but I appreciate that you did the research to look up that stuff.
We may be biased,
And
but I
just
think
those
that
again,
at Gilbert, we set the bar at a high level. We want to keep it, make sure that that's at a high level. So.
Yeah.
So technically, it's not the open forum. If you have a quick question.
Just a comment
Yes.
in the sense that when you're communicating with the parents,
Yes, sir.
let's kind of have a clear plan. You know, what options did we discuss? This is what's going to happen. Because if you just come out with, you know, oh, we talked about it and it's going to be April 4th, it's just, there would be too many questions.
Mhm.
So I'd rather, you know, wait and have a complete picture
That's
and
fair.
communicate that well to the parents so they understand, you know, what's going on.
Do you understand, Omar, when we're looking at, and this is an outside situation, but when we're looking at our Washington DC trip and things like,
no, I definitely understand.
but those, what you're saying is those are things to make sure people hear and understand.
And that you have
That's
a
fair.
plan for the teachers in terms of, you know,
Good point.
professional, I mean, all of that I think is in one email versus multiple that continue to answer questions from parents.
I agree with you 100% on that.
I guess for me to be clear, I'd like to say that if you call the 4th and that's the last day, if we have plenty of room in the hours, I'm in favor of you calling the 4th the last day, even if we have 1 or 2 more days. Now, I'm one board member. They absolutely, you know, obviously have a vote, as does Tyler, but I also know that the last couple of days of school sometimes tend to be busy work and challenging, especially when it's pushed out so far, because our teachers are getting the work done. So
That is exactly when you say that. I think that was part of the discussion was, okay, we don't want to just say, oh, you know what? Oh, we're going to settle for the minimum because you know what? Those 5 days or whatever really didn't matter because they actually do matter.
mm-hmm.
And to then say we're going to tack on 10 minutes here for the next whatever. Is that really quality learning time? That was our discussion. You know, and I'm not saying that if somebody makes that decision somewhere, that's not good for them. We were just saying for us, was that the right decision? But looking at that time, we said, okay, if we come back Monday and Tuesday's a half day, we can have, we got the week of Memorial Day, we've got that Tuesday through Friday, then we come back and we've got those, like the days that you said, kind of those, we've got some fun things planned for the kids. High school kids will be doing semester tests, but we would have a week that could be non-interrupted of some other things happening. So that was where we came, that's where we kind of thought, okay, that would be a good ending spot, would be that coming back for those 2 days. Because if you come back, you don't want to really come back for a half a day on a Monday, you know, so really thinking about that, where are you going to make that cutoff? And then thinking, like Mr. Beecher said, about our kids that are going to Washington, D.C. How do we get that? I mean, how do you make that? What's the equity there? So anyway, that was my where some of that thought process came
jobs
in.
And kids start
Yeah.
out, there's all sorts of things.
And people do need to know a date.
They just
Yeah.
need to understand to plan, but you never know. And sometimes we might have to let out for something other than weather, you know,
Yeah.
like a water main break.
Exactly.
You just never know.
Man, we're really jinxing this
I
year.
think
Nothing to do with the construction project.
yeah, disclaimer. That was the only thing I could think of. Sorry.
It's not coming
about
this.
that. Anyway.
All right, I mean, I think, yeah, good,
I have
good
direction.
feel on what we're
Yeah.
looking for. Okay, excellent, thank you, Lindsay. Any other administrative reports?
Do you have anything else you wanted to add, Carrie?
No, we're getting ready for the new, what's called the ISASP, Iowa State Assessment. Oh gosh, SP, statewide. I can't remember now. Now I've said ISASP so many times now I can't remember what the last 2 letters stand for. We have worked with high school teachers on what that's going to look like. We have the option of doing some of it online, some of it paper pencil, and we really looked at grade levels and thought about what, you know, how students are manipulating technology that would be the best fit for them. So we have to take it science 5, 8, and 10. We'll be taking that online, Chromebooks, using our Chromebooks. The rest we do reading portion, grades 3 through 11. They will be doing that paper pencil except for 9th grade, they're going to do that one online. We're going to do math, 3 through 11, that's going to be paper pencil. And the reason that we made those decisions we're just we don't want the test, the format of the test, to hinder anything. And we have seen that, for example, when we do our NWEA map testing, we do that one online. That's just an online test. And kids are not as apt to use scratch paper or anything like that when it comes to that. So we thought, okay, this is the first year of this, let's do the paper pencil of that. And then we need to start building that in. How are we preparing kids? Not teaching to the test, but how are we preparing them for that format, that version? The writing, this is new this year. There's an ELA/writing component to that. That one we are going to take online, grades 6 on up. And the reason that we decided that was our kids do so much writing online. I mean, there's so much of the writing that they're doing is formatting it through Google or Google Docs or whatever, that we thought that format they would feel the most comfortable with. Now we decided to not do that grades 3, 4, 5 because they don't do as much writing that way. We have earmarked starting on April 15th, we have 2 weeks earmarked for it. We have to this year, all districts have to do it the last 10 weeks of the school year. That's just state mandated. We have to let the state know, kind of when our time is, and that's what, we didn't want to do it at the very beginning of the window because we know there's going to be glitches. There's always glitches, and each week we've got some new email that comes out with, oh, this is a new, so it's just how it works when something's new. And so we just are rolling with that. April 3rd, which is an early out, we're going to do our training for the intermediate and the middle school teachers. We already did it for high school, and we'll do that then. But we feel like we'll be ready for it, and those, we will not get any results back until September or October. That's what they're saying right now, just because it's new. They have to go through and do some find the range. They don't have any of that, and we're only going to be compared to Iowa kids. There isn't going to be a national comparison or anything because it's only going to be taken in Iowa. So as we have more information, we'll share that, but. And it's just a dipstick, it's a snapshot.
I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but when we were supposed to be doing that training, that was a day that we missed school.
It was another snow day.
So, or for the afternoon. But I do have to compliment Carrie because one of the things that she came right to our administrative meeting with was a plan in place of how we were going to go ahead and make sure that all of our teachers had the information to them and made sure that we are following the guidelines that were there. So even though we had the snow day, that didn't affect anything. She's got a plan in place. I had a chance to set in on the high school one, and I'll do the intermediate and the middle too, but they do a good job of explaining that, so we are doing the right things.
One thing that's different, I think, with this test, and this is happening all over the country, there are lots of protocols that we have to follow. I mean, it is just, and this is what we are saying to teachers. That is what it is. We're going to do that, and if we have to do spot checks, we have to do them. That does not mean that we feel that somebody's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. We'll follow the law, we'll do what we're supposed to be doing, but we need to remember this is just a dipstick. It's one day.
Yeah. Yep.
And there's so many great things that we're doing that I feel very confident in what our results will be, but it's just that. It's one day in the life of our students that are here for 178 days, and we need to remember that. So
I like that perspective. Any other? All right, we're good on that one, 4-3. So board reports, I guess you went to the City of Gilbert Council meeting, right, Deb?
I did.
You did. And how does it impact us? Oh, it impacts us around the developments that are happening south of town and possibly some green space or slash money options. Do you have any? Yeah,
so I'll just high level. So I was there just to listen. Tyler was there and kind of was interacting with the council. But so there's a new development going up just south, I think you guys know, just, let me see, west of kind of the, and there's 40 acres, and like there's a 10% requirement for green space, and I think that there was some discussion, I don't know between who, but is there a possibility that that green space could be somewhere other than in that development? And potentially could that be shared space, like a tennis court was one option, etc. You know, Tyler brought that to that joint meeting or whatever that we had. And essentially, just to wrap it up, I guess, no, it doesn't. That green space needs to be within that developed space. They proposed a trail and, you know, talked through those details. But it sounds to me like that's I would say that's, I mean, done. Do you know what I mean? Like it's wrapped up in that particular project, collaboration. It doesn't sound like that's going to be anything for us to consider. And it was just that, right? It was just conversations about, is this a win-win or whatever? But it's not, according to that.
There'll be more developments, I'm sure.
Well, another 40 actually right over there. But,
oh, okay.
But yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, it's obviously business in any way, so thank you for that report. Are there any other board announcements? Again, Kim, thanks for putting together some of the work that we've been doing. Was it last week or the week before? And then also, you know, doing on this coming Thursday with the long-term developments or long-term planning stuff. Really appreciate that. All right. In that case, we'll move on to 501 and many letters here around the construction projects we're doing. I'm just going to look through this. I don't know if either of you want to speak to any of these things on the specifics here. We have the meeting minutes that, again, we've all read through for 2 series of meetings, both early and late February. And then I guess just to be kind of like, I don't know, Adam, if you want to pull anything out of those minutes that you think that is worth discussing or talking about here. If not, I think we're pretty diligent at reading our board package.
Hey, I don't think there's anything really to touch on. Just progress over there. We'll finish the middle school south foundations this week. They have the underground utilities done at the high school east. The mason was planning to start this week. There's still a lot of ice that we have to chip off of the top of the foundations before they can start laying the block. So they will probably mobilize later this week and probably start laying block next week. The utilities continue to bounce around from location to location, so they're at high school west. So the VOTEC and the 2-story addition now, working on the underground utilities.
I really like that format, by the way, the minutes of everything.
Yeah.
It's just easy to kind of catch up on like what's going on without, you know, I don't know, too much detail, I guess. Perfect.
Good.
I have a quick question for you. So I've heard that this coming to the site and seeing this plan is an amazing kind of a thing, but is there a time? Like, I would love to do that at some point, but I don't know.
We sell popcorn and drinks. And
is there a time that works? Like, do you have like a stand? I would not want to interrupt like the.
We misplaced our formal invitation.
I'm just interested.
So Tyler came to our meeting last week on Thursday. So every Thursday there's a weekly production meeting.
Okay.
It'll be ourselves and generally whatever subcontractors or bid package contractors are on site, as well as the bid package contractors that are probably 2 to 3 weeks from starting their work. So they can be included in the plan to understand where everybody's at and when they will be ready to come to the site. If you want to come over and schedule a time at any time, you can do that. Just let me know and I can meet you up there and to go through it. Yeah. Otherwise, we have a meeting every Thursday.
What time?
At, let's see, this job is at 10 o'clock. Sorry, I got to think. My other one's in the afternoons.
It's Tuesday.
No. So every week on Thursday, which is the one that Tyler went to, is our CP 2.0 production planning meeting. We do have an every other week owner architect contractor meeting, which is tomorrow.
Yep. And that's what those
minutes are. And that's what those minutes are from, correct.
No, I'll get in touch with you maybe about when
so
those 10 o'clock. Just
Thursday this week, and we also then have a 3 o'clock end of shift meeting where all the subs come in and review what they did for the day and what they're doing the next day. So if you want to hit that, you can as well.
You have to wear a hard hat.
Yep.
Oh, that's what we're.
They're all there.
Right?
That's where I want to go.
Thursday.
Man,
For our work
Take
session.
pictures, but-
Yes.
Oh, 10, yeah.
10, yeah.
Great.
Oh, boy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be
I'll
there.
make sure I call, like, I won't.
I'll be there.
We're gonna
Because first
surprise
of
you.
all, the
I'm
morning's
gonna
like
convince her.
8:50.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, is there anything else around this?
No, I'm sorry.
No, that was great, that was great. I'm looking for the hard hats. Take a picture. The intermediate track repair quotes, I know Sam was going to briefly.
Yeah, I'll provide a quick little update for that. So if you recall at our last meeting a month ago, we were hoping to, between that meeting and today, go to the site with a couple of the vendors and allow them to do what would be considered a current status assessment of the damage to the track and some of those concerns of safety out there. Well, you'll notice, of course, there's still snow on the track, and so that meeting has not happened yet because of just of the weather. And so what that means is they haven't done an assessment or provided a quote based on our quote document that we drafted. All that meaning track will not then, that track will not be available for track season in terms of, let me take a step back. The repairs won't be done prior to track season. If track is still conducted on that particular surface, that's up to you. We're not, I mean, that's not up to me, right? But the repairs that we were hoping to have done by that time, by track season, by March 25th, will not be done. Like I said, just because of the weather.
Yeah.
So are we still moving forward as soon as we can? Or
That's
we're
correct.
going
Yep.
to-
No, that's still the plan, is to move forward. At least that's the what was decided at the last meeting. If you guys want to change that's up to you, I suppose. But yeah, the plan is to go ahead and meet with the two vendors that have expressed most interest in the project on site, along with Tim and maybe even Lindsay. So everyone will provide a quote, an apples to apples quote to fix the damage, right? And provide what would be considered a safe surface to run on. We will change what we're proposing. So the last time we talked about two stages of repair, one an immediate fix, and then the second piece would be more of a mid-range type of a fix where they would spray on another layer or two of the polyurethane surfacing. They said they didn't want to commit to that until they were able to look at the track, because it's been like a year since they've been out there, so another season of freeze thaw and damage could have been taking place. So they don't want to commit to a quote for this. I'll call it the phase 2 of the repair until they go take a look at it. So we'll go take a look at it. They'll offer a quote to do the immediate repairs, so it's a safe surface, and then at that time they'll give us an opinion on what the next step should be. And all this has been kind of flexible and changing just because of the weather and some of their opinions as times has progressed. So that's the current plan, is to get out there with the two vendors as soon as the snow melts and offer some quotes for the district to proceed with repair.
Do we think they just get the snow off? I mean, I know that, I haven't seen it, and maybe it's 8 feet deep, but I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know,
My
like,
guess
it's
is if you
Later
use
on,
a
when you
piece of
see our
equipment,
snow removal bill.
it'll
Yeah.
ruin it.
yeah, my guess is it would damage it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and we brought that up to the folks, and they
Blow
said
dryers?
we
I don't
can
know.
get out there, and there are machines designed for such things, but even with how much
Yeah.
damage is done, you're just going to make it a lot worse.
I've seen I-35, so I know that this year
It's
did.
amazing how those potholes are just.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
So we saw 7 cars pull up to the side on Saturday when they were going.
Yeah.
Hit a pothole and
I
blew
imagine
tires.
it's just.
Flat
worse.
tires, I saw the
Within
same
a
thing.
3-mile.
Highway 30 bridge.
Yeah.
So we were hopeful to have some repairs done and get quotes and share those tonight. That what just hasn't happened yet. So.
Well, but, okay, so just so that we're all clear,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be in the 50s, 40s this week. If
Yep.
it's clear and we get out here next week, will they do it as soon as possible so that we still have some track season, or are we just kind of out for all of track season, and we're going to figure out what we're going to do.
According to the two vendors that we've been speaking with, even if they're able to get out here this week when it gets nice, or if the snow melts within a handful of days now, they have a handful of projects that are prioritized in their minds. Now, had things melted a handful of, even a week ago and they got out here, they probably could have had an opportunity to do it. But considering now everything is stacked up till now, then they wouldn't be able to get out here and start doing work. They said till, I wrote it down. They said they weren't going to make a commitment by 3/24. So mid-April is when they'd be able to come out and do work. And that story shifted a little bit from a month ago. They were anticipating being able to get done with some of those other jobs prior to our time frame. They didn't want to commit then, and then they of course didn't commit. And I've been speaking with them these past couple of weeks to get these quotes. They wouldn't offer a commitment. So the closest they said they'd be able to get out there would be mid-April, which is about, well, track season starts on March 25th, which is a Monday, and then so there's a good 2.5 weeks there of track season that would not be able to be utilizing that track.
And Tim knows that, and our coaches know that, so we've made other arrangements for our kids, right?
Tim's been made aware that this might not happen, that the pending weather. I wasn't going to make a formal communication with Tim until after this meeting, but we've been discussing the very valid potential of not being able to hold track season on that track because of the safety concerns. So there's been an ongoing conversation.
And one of the things that I talked to Tim today about was the fact that I wanted to hear the complete situation, and we might have to be looking at a plan B here to see what we're going to do, because unless something would really change drastically, I don't know that we're going to be able to. I don't want to throw that out the window, but it's going to be a challenge for us to run on that track. So we're going to have to look at some type of a plan B. Plan B would be maybe going with an early and a late. That's not going to be desirable, but it is what it is.
Well, we shared tracks once upon a time, and that was our only track.
Correct.
Right before that one. So there's still a way.
Fewer students at that.
Well, we're talking not very many years ago when we shared that track for middle school and high school.
Yeah.
High school's been there for 5 years, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not really that many more kids, but our program might be bigger. Okay.
They can figure out.
Okay.
They'll figure
So
out.
yeah, you and Tim are going to figure something out,
Yeah.
or Tim really is going to figure something out for us.
Okay.
It is what it is. Obviously, the weather is.
Right. There's
You
not
can't
much
do
we can
anything,
do
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, and if it's unsafe, it's unsafe.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, that's good to know. There's nothing we obviously the board can do on this one right now. Sam, do you want to update on the kitchen lab and some great drawings we had in our packet? And
So you've got an opportunity to look at the floor plan that's been developed with the design team and help from your husband Jeff, which has been great, and Vic. There's been a handful of conversations going on to create this layout, but also to create an equipment list. And so once the final equipment list has been confirmed by Jeff and Vic and the team, then our recommendation would be to go and solicit quotes for the purchase of that equipment list from at least 2 vendors, which I believe is board policy. Ideally, at least 3, but no less than 2. So the time frame of that list, I don't have that. I don't know if Jeff has offered a time frame to you. Okay. It sounds good. I get that. Not a problem. I can report a time frame for that finalization of that list if you like, and get it to Lindsay for distribution here. And then, so in the interim, while that's been going on, there has been some work that needed to get in place under the floor in preparation to provide the proper infrastructure under the ground, under the floor for the equipment. So we've done enough work to know okay, we got to have some pipes and pieces here and there under the ground. So a construction change directive has been given to Story, which is simply a fancy way to say a description of the work to get going right away, has been given to Adam and Story and the subs. I don't know if that work has been done at this point or in process. Or,
yeah,
okay.
so I would say it's in process as they just moved from the
utility guys.
Yeah,
yep.
Which is where it would start. They just moved over today to the VOTEC area.
Okay.
So they've just now started.
Yep. So.
And that's in this, that change amount is in this packet? I didn't know how much I saw that.
So no, so the change amounts, so the construction change directive.
For the flooring piece of it, right?
Yeah.
For the underground pipes
Correct.
and stuff, the drains and all of those that now are identified. It's a change in the work to be able to get the contractors the information on a good timeline so they don't have to wait and come back. HALA submitted a change directive which tells them that they should go ahead with the work and price it as they go. So we will get that pricing here probably within a week, I would guess, if we don't already have it. So the CCD came out last week. My guess is we probably do have some of that pricing back. It is not, though, one of these. That was
Correct.
But logically, we're not adding, we're just moving, right? We've identified where we think things should be.
Yes, we are adding work though. So before, we just had a main line utility into the space. Now we have the location of all the branch lines and drains.
Okay.
So before, we had just roughed into the space to be able to accommodate it at a future time. Now is the future time. It's not very far in the future.
Okay.
But now, instead of one line in, we have one line, and then we have 6 lines that go out to drains and vents and traps for sinks and everything else, which has now been designed and determined on where everything should be.
Yeah, and maybe I'm ahead of myself on this, so shut me up if
No,
you need to, but the idea of preparing that space so that it could be that kitchen, and God forbid we get in there a year and then we decide, we don't want to break up, concrete and put it in then. But I personally am not comfortable with just all out on this kitchen until I think we have more discussion on that. I don't know details. I know we've had an idea. I've only ever heard that high level idea, and I think I just want to be sure what I'm agreeing to and what I'm not agreeing to here at this table right now.
Sure.
And
So
what you're asking from us. So, because
right,
I
it's
think I was
more
a
of
little
a
unclear with
sure,
that.
yeah, and it's more of an update of some of the work
Yeah.
that's been progressing. In terms of, let's see here, I'm trying to think back in previous board meetings on what was determined how far to go.
So I think what we saw is sort of at the completion of our last large bid package, we had money to kind of go after our sort of idealized, sparse kitchen setup, not full on like crazy stuff. And then we said, hey, looks like we have the money to kind of fulfill this dream. Can you all go out and check it out? That's what I remember having that conversation,
Yes,
right?
go check it out. But then we're stopping short of, and by God, we bought it, and here we go, and all of this, right?
So that's the part that you're working with.
Sorry.
Kim's husband, right?
Yeah, Vic and Jeff on.
Jeff, sorry, thank you.
And kind of, and Vic and his team on,
Yep.
okay, finalizing what that is.
Okay.
That design is still not finalized.
Okay.
What we directed Story to do is to get the plumbing in there because we don't want to pour any concrete.
Right.
And so it's just to that level that we're kind of approving for tonight.
So we're just agreeing on infrastructure.
That's correct.
We're not saying go buy equipment.
No, that is
That's
correct.
thank you.
Good.
That's just what I wanted to make sure I
clarification.
understood.
Yeah.
Just in case. Okay.
And by doing it that way, it doesn't slow our workers down, and then we have to come back because we wouldn't do anything really in there until we had all that information. So it keeps us progressing forward.
If you feel comfortable, like, what's the price range? Is it like $100,000 of plumbing stuff?
Oh no.
10,000?
No.
I mean, we don't like we don't do this day to day. So if you don't feel comfortable, that's also fine. I know that's like an on-the-spot question. You don't
Yeah,
have to-
that's not a good.
Worst
thing.
case scenario.
Oh dear.
No.
Get the hard hat.
Yeah.
I've paid a lot.
No, that's fine. And Adam, I don't want to put you on the spot. You can definitely say, hey, we're not ready for this.
He doesn't have the underground plan here.
If
I
you said
don't
that we would-
recall the complexity of it.
Yeah.
So I would hate to give you a number now. I can sure look at it tomorrow though and email something out and say, hey, this
I
is
think
my,
that'd be-
this
that'd
is
be
my
tremendous.
So
swag.
didn't you say maybe you'd have it in a week?
Yeah, my guess
So
is
is
we will
it
have
better
the
just to
pricing
wait
from
for a
the
week?
subs within a week. They
Yeah.
usually are pretty quick to get us pricing, so.
Well, I mean, I think it's the right choice. I think it's clear. We all said last meeting together, hey, or whenever we talked about the
Yep.
bids the last time, we have the money. Let's put the infrastructure in so that
Yep.
we're prepared when we do want to take action on purchasing the
Yeah.
kitchen equipment. We're not busting up concrete or holding
Yep.
up the project.
That's right.
So
That's
So there's two layers of pricing
Yeah.
here. One is within a week to get this most recent directive to do the underground infrastructure stuff. That's the first layer of pricing. The second layer, which is called a formal proposal request, that would then include the rest of the work, everything from the wall locations and equipment selection, doors and windows and all that stuff. You'll have the opportunity to review that. I'm not sure, Adam, what the time frame would that be,
Yeah.
but the design is developed enough to where now he can start on that pricing, on the second layer of the pricing for that. So you'll have an opportunity to say yay or nay, or
Okay.
Yep.
and go from there, and assess it, and talk to Vic and the
Yeah.
folks too.
I just want to know more about the process that we
Yep.
went about and
Yeah,
how we decided that was the idea and who we talked to, that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
right. So some of the designs have been progressing with conversations of my team and the design team and Story, as well as Vic and some of the other ag and CTE folks. So there has been some design discussions, but nothing has been officially presented to the board yet. Obviously, to really relay what you're going to get and how it's going to be used and how it's going to add to the curriculum and things like that. We've been having a lot of discussions, but
And that would be my biggest question, is not really what they're doing, Lindsay, but where our curriculum is at and how this fits into our current program or takes away from our current program. So I'm cool with what you guys are doing because I think it saves us money in the long run, just like building out the pods at the middle school saved us money or at the high
Right.
school. But
How does it
But
fit?
prior to the next step, I think it's very important, at least for me, to know where we are with curriculum. From you, Carrie, and...
I would tell you, I mean, I'm just going to be perfectly honest with you. I think that the planning has been what the focus has been, and I have not been very much a part of those conversations.
yeah,
So-
the last formal meeting we had with I'll call it a programming meeting in terms of how we use the word programming, but I think you sat in on a meeting with Vic. And
That was the one I was
That
at
was
was a
long
long
ago.
time ago. I
Exactly.
haven't been to any since then.
Yeah, I think there's been quite a few discussions since between Vic and his team on exactly what those curriculum things have been. I don't want to put words in their mouth.
I don't think
but
we're all, I'm just going to be
it-
honest with you, Sam.
Yeah,
We haven't had those formal
Okay.
conversations yet.
okay, great.
And so I think that they're starting, but I can't speak to that right now because,
I want to know, like, what
Right.
are
Yeah.
we giving up in
Gotcha.
terms of
Thanks.
No.
curriculum, potentially, and what are we?
I mean, we need to talk, yes, there are different things that we have to discuss as to how that does affect programming. And if we're using that, how are we using, what are we doing with what we already have and those kinds of things.
I'm fully in support of putting in the infrastructure. That makes sense, to not tear up floors and cut down walls. But things kind of have to work side by side. I mean, we've got to have these two different.
We have to have those discussions on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
There's no doubt about
And
it.
by no means am I trying to slide a fast one here.
No,
That's not
no.
coming across.
No,
I just
no,
want,
it's
you know,
just,
make
this
sure
is more
that-
than we thought we were going to get, or else we would have had these conversations already.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I think that there's been a lot of development, but even since the last board meeting and this
Yep,
board
yep.
meeting, in an effort to kind of keep Story going in terms of underground discussions and things like that. So our team hasn't been working outside of the I'll call it the boundaries or policy of what you guys have relayed to us. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
And I sorry I misspoke, Carrie.
Oh, no, I don't
Some of
mean
those
it that way. I think
discussions,
that the
it's-
discussions that have been all around the building part of it.
That's
I think
right.
that next part is that next thing. I'm not saying that those conversations haven't been in their infancy by any means.
Yeah.
But I think now it's time to really dig into that part of it.
Great.
There's details.
I think what's awesome is like a year ago or more, just hearing some of Vic's like vision for what that room could be at his school has really been compelling, at least to me. And so it'll be fun to see that. Like no pressure, you know, but I think we're all sort of like, man, that was really cool. Can't wait.
I want to know that
like,
it's cool to students.
Yeah.
I want to know that it's what they're going to actually walk away with skill-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, not
No.
specifics, I'm talking higher
Good
level.
stuff,
but-
yeah.
I mean, because I agree, I was all in, I wanted to be a part of it, but then you have to always, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Number one, what are we giving up?
Mhm.
You know, if we do have to give up something, and then what are we logically going to
great.
give them in terms of tangible skills?
Yeah.
Those are great
As a
questions.
result, so,
You're exactly right.
which are, to your point, curriculum, not building, which totally, you know.
Right.
I'm sorry I started this whole thing off. I just wanted to make sure I knew exactly how far we were going with this, and
Yeah.
I'm perfectly comfortable
Yeah.
with that, so thank you.
Yeah. So that in terms of item D, that's all I had to share in terms of what's been going on with the kitchen development.
Do you anticipate next board meeting having more of like a sort of kitchen equipment? I don't know what it's called. Sort of like recommendation then?
Well, it'll be once again.
Sorry,
let's see
you just
here.
answered that. I spaced
No.
out.
Yeah, that's where the formal list.
Yeah.
I'd hate to finalize that list before some of the curriculum discussions have gone on.
Got it.
Just in case, well, gee whiz, if we're going to do X in curriculum,
Yeah.
we better have X type of equipment to support that, right? And right now, the infrastructure that we're putting in, it can handle a lot of curriculum. And so I'm not concerned by what we're doing now or what we're advocating now is going to miss the boat on what curriculum needs to be provided. So I'm confident in that, but I'd hate to say, yes, we'll have a formal recommendation and list by the next board meeting, because I don't know what the time frame will be of
that's
those
super
curriculum
fair. No,
discussions.
thank you.
Is that, okay.
Well, I think it's just all setting expectations.
Great question, yeah, exactly, so, yeah.
All right, let's move on to super thrilling change order 004 and this high school athletic field access road.
Yes, so the fire department requires a permanent access road. The way it was originally shown and the way we have to put it in are different because of some existing utilities that weren't identified previously. So we've had to shift it so that the access comes further to the west out of the existing parking lot, which elongates and makes the road longer. So this is the cost for that extension and that widening of that road. The fire department requires it so they can get a truck or an ambulance or any type of rescue vehicle down to the actual grandstands.
So is it going to the road? Is it going to the main road? Or
No,
it's not
so
just further west?
so it comes off of
We had that.
maybe like where the current handicap parking spots are at the
Yeah.
football stadium,
Yeah.
just a little bit west of that.
Okay.
And then the drive actually goes south out of that parking lot and
Yeah.
curves around
Okay.
to the south side of like the Tiger Den, and it will hook up to new pavement that's there.
Okay.
So,
They were talking about some of that at the city council meeting with the new development and
Yes.
making sure
Can
with
you
the
read that?
roads.
I pointed it out there.
yes. So.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the
there-
cloud.
So clear.
Yeah. In the little green.
No, these guys
zone.
see it, they're like, oh, yes, it makes total sense. We're just like, what is happening here?
It's like
It's a
zeros
boy.
and
Oh,
ones.
I know.
That's
That's a boy. Too far.
okay. Oh, there.
So
Yeah, no, I
That's
just-
perfect. That's easy. Yeah, I got that.
And so really it will be used for emergency vehicles. It won't be used for, shouldn't be used for anything else. They might, their grooming machine, if it has to go from here over to the middle schools, they would probably use that, but otherwise.
No, I was confused now. That's the current.
So that's
design.
the current design, and then I think the next,
It's just wider, is it?
new location?
Yeah, so that picture you saw was the current one. The new one will be further over. So it stretches the length of that road out a little bit and moves the main entrance further to the west.
Got it.
So if you go back in that other
It's starting
picture,
over close.
yeah, so you can see this sidewalk here that comes off that other parking lot. So the main throat of that road is to the east of that. If you go to that next blueprint picture,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
So
right away.
that current design's over here somewhere. That's the sidewalk that you're seeing.
So it goes to.
So it moves over to the west, which lengthens all that out.
Right.
Makes
Thank you,
sense.
Gail, for pulling that up.
did you want to talk about, is there any designs or anything for, no? Is that the only design, any other pictures that we didn't want to?
I don't think
For that one, I don't think there's
For the
any
electrical
more
conduit and the
pictures.
Just
main-
a line through
Yeah.
a square.
So there's no more discussion on 4, we can move
Yeah.
to 6.
Yeah, you got it.
That'll just be, that'll be concrete then, or?
It'll be a gravel drive. Yep.
Okay, I
Yep.
thought it was like cobblestone from that picture. I'm like, that's nice.
You can buy a brick.
Gravel,
It's a gravel drive that will support the biggest fire truck that they have, that Gilbert has, so. 6 is some added electrical conduit. The band asked for some just conduit only for some future recording equipment that they would provide on their own at a later date. So this is conduit that goes from the wall above the ceiling. The conduit's all buried in the block wall. Fairly standard construction, fairly minimal cost. The cost was reviewed by us and we felt it was fine. These all were reviewed with Art as well, so.
Perfect.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, seem fine for.
CR7 is a credit. This is this is the second part of a change that was approved previously. When we actually got to the job site and did some underground utility potholing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right, you went the wrong way,
I
but
went
that's
the wrong
okay.
way.
The existing storm line is shown right here. In all reality, it's pretty much right underneath the foundation. So we moved it out here and that was reviewed and approved before by the board. We didn't get a credit from ACI for a chunk of pipe here and a little pipe up here that they didn't have to do because at the time they were not awarded the job yet and didn't have their contract yet. So we sent the change out to the utility guys. They needed to get the utility moved so we could get our foundations in. This is the second part of the, I'll say, interior utilities that ACI didn't have to perform due to the moving of that utility already.
That's great news. All right, and then board, sorry, we can approve all of these at the end, right? So, and then change order 10. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, 10.
Yep.
The sand fill
Yep.
at the ensemble room.
Yes, so the prints indicate and show the walls.
Yeah.
Sure they did.
Oh, we're on the right way. Wrong way. It's me so excited.
Hey. So the original print showed this wall being filled with sand to help with the sound attenuation, and then this wall to be filled. These walls were not indicated, but are desired by the band program.
They just fill the black walls full of sand?
They do.
What the deal is?
Yep, and it helps dampen the
I bet
sound.
it does, yeah.
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 So the best way to control sound is just mass.
Yep.
I move approval?
Second.
All in favor?
I-
All right. Stands approved. Thank you all. for coming, for doing all of this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem. Thank you for having us tonight.
Yeah.
Didn't even have trees.
No, wait.
I'll have a bit on the way
No,
out.
wait a second. Does that mean we're supposed to bring trees, or you're going to have trees for us?
Maybe we're supposed to bring some. Sounds like the yes, we do.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see you Thursday.
Thanks. All right, we'll see you around.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
will call.
Okay, yeah.
I'd like a report on if she shows up next Thursday, following the board meeting. Maybe we can share some evidence.
X Thursday off. We have another function, so, you know, it'd be a great time to see.
Every Thursday.
Picture of them by your scheduling wall.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh.
You're still getting it?
No, it's zero. It just shows that you guys paid.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're almost done. So let's see, Gail, for the, I think this is you, right, for the 2019-20 certified budget, and then also setting the public hearing for the
Yes.
8th, and which we'll need a
I'll just
quorum,
briefly,
right?
I'll briefly review the changes here
Yep.
from the last board meeting. Very minimal, it's just that the SSA has been finalized. And so that did change a few, just minimal. So it brought down the general fund levy, and then, but to keep the total levy level, we added to the management levy in the dollars. So we are at 18.87, and so that would be consistent to what it was last year at 18.9. And so this is with the SSA change, and then we just tweaked some things to keep that total levy level. And then, so with that change, we move forward to the publication, the hearing, and so the directive would be from you guys tonight to publish the proposed budget in the paper, proceed with the hearing in April, and then move forward with that.
So this is, I just want to hop in one quick thing. So we kind of got ourselves in a bind earlier this year around these things. These published meetings, we really can't change. So I mean, we need to make sure that we're going to have a quorum at the minimum on April 8th. Is that right? Yeah. And so even if like it's only 3 of us, we need to move the actual school board meeting to another time. We can do that, but we have to at least have a quorum on the 8th. So.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I already heard 2 voices, so we're there.
Does anybody have any questions?
The fastest question is, I know this is kind of small, 18.87. Is there a reason why you said we wanted to keep it even, but
Not even level is what
Level.
I meant.
Okay.
Level, we've had this, well, I'm just going to be, this is my 3rd budget probably here. The message that the board previously had is instead of having a levy that's up and down, just keep it level and consistent. Continue with prepaying our debt, keeping our debt at 405. Instead of getting it up and down, just keep it level.
okay.
And so
it
that's
doesn't have
what
to be
the
exact
directions.
to be level, right? It's just it's a.
And you know, when we publish this and they finalize things, sometimes the 18.87, by the time they're done with it, sometimes it changes to minimal. You know, if there's any changes, I think pretty much everything's in, unless some kind of, the last minute thing is sales tax, the state sales tax, but I did receive a number from them and they said that this is the number. As long as that doesn't change, this pretty much will be the same, so.
Move approval?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, stands approved. Thank you all. Thank you, Gil, for that. My favorite part of the meeting is talking about the district audit that was performed. Again, I think we all had a chance to skim it. And Gail, you said you have a few things you wanted to bring to
Yeah,
attention?
I'm just going to just briefly, I'm not a professional at this. This is not my job to be an auditor. We hire people to do this. So, and we always have the opportunity to bring the auditors in to discuss this in further detail, more detail if you want. So if that's ever a concern, let me know because we can always have them come in. I just wanted to kind of explain the document that's in front of you. On page 7 through page 16, this is the management's discussion and analysis. This is kind of a story of the financial story of our district in like a story form. Then, if you go from page 18 through 60, this is your documentation, your spreadsheets, your calculations, you know. So depending on the purpose of this is for lay people that pick this up, some people may just review and they don't want to look at the calculations and the spreadsheets and those. So that's why you have the management decision, the MDA is what you call it. So then, but I feel the most important thing of the school district's audit is on page 61 and to the back is what are the findings? What did they find? What are the concerns? And it talks about if it's, you know, the internal control deficiencies, it talks about the deficiencies, and some of these are, it's hard that they show up every year because of, you know, we just don't have as much staff as probably as recommended to do segregation of duties example, you know. We do the best we can, we feel like we do a good job at it, but it's not what they report as being the perfect segregation of duties. So it's their job to report it. And then the other findings, and then they talk about, okay, did they find something or not? And so basically the comments that we addressed the day that they were here, and I talked about, you know, segregation of duties is always one. And then we have to respond, for example, the lunch balances. They have to report it because they don't want to see any negative balances because it is supposed to be a profit-driven account, you know. So, and then the other is the copier lease on page 66. And only president can sign the lease, and I accidentally signed the lease. I showed them that the next year that it was proper, but they found the findings of I signed that one lease, so we just have to tell them, you know, how do we respond?
No, this, I mean, overall, this seems good, and they have this nice.
I hope there's no surprises or anything.
I just focused on this last page, these last pages, so I'll go back and look some more.
I'll give you guys my annual commercial. If you want to go to 38, page 38. So this is the unfunded pension liability. And so if the money invested in IBERS produces a 7% rate of return and they're able to maintain that for all time until our people retire, we have an $8.2 million liability for that. If it goes down to 6%, we have a $13.6 million liability for that. If it goes up to 8, we only have a $3.8 million liability on our books for that. And then what was kind of new this year is if you look at the other employment benefits on page 39. So that is if you look on page 38 and the number 8 there, I'm sorry, yeah, just below the second paragraph of 8 that's for health insurance for retirees up until they're age 65 years old. So that's another liability of $663,000 to fund that.
So is the district not like a traditional employer where we make those payments every?
We make what's required, but I believe it's 85% funded. Does that sound about right, Gail? It's in that hunt. So this would represent 15% that's not funded in IBERS. Gotcha. So it's just an FYI, but that's what really has kind of hammered our financials because they include that in liabilities that didn't used to be reported. So they started a couple of years ago with the pension liability, and now they're adding this other benefit liability. So I think it's just good to know that that's the status of where it's at. So every year I kind of always pull that page out and say, hey, where we're at. And you can kind of see it's been kind of creeping up on us a little bit every year. But it should as the function that we have more employees.
Our retirees can stay on our health plan until 65, but there's a cost for that because we all know that the older you get, the more medical issues you have, and then they, and there's a cost to that. So that's a calculation of what is
part of your
it
health
cost.
insurance premiums that we pay for the group.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So while they're paying their specific premium, right, it does inflate
Right.
everybody
Cost of
else's
the group.
Everybody pays the
Thank
same
you.
premium,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that makes sense
It's
now.
just shared.
yeah. So
John, I mean, is there anything that you think, like, to prepare for 5-10 years down the road that we need to be being mindful of here?
No, I think it's kind of outside of our control, but to be mindful of it, I think is good to recognize where that's at. And really, how funded IPERS is, it's in pretty good shape compared to other states, but I think it's just something to be mindful of if we continue to see that going downward, that we should, talk to our legislators and say, hey, we're not funding this adequately, and we need to be, so that no one gets a surprise of, hey, guess what, we need to cut your pension because we haven't adequately funded it.
This is everybody. Everybody.
Do we need a
Yes.
motion on this?
yes, you have to. We need a motion to accept it.
So moved.
Second. Second was by Kim.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure, over there. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, stands approved. Thank you all, or accepted, I should say.
As we talked about growing, our district growing though, right? We talked about staffing and stuff like all of that. Are we gonna take this into consideration as well? I mean, we don't have the staff to do this kind of oversight and have the double, the segregation of duties. You know what I mean? Just,
But that appears every year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know it would, and I understand, but as we continue to grow,
We always look at it.
have to remember
We
that
always
we're
look
a
at
growing
it.
district, yeah.
Yeah.
But as we grow, I guess we have to determine on, the
When's the
district
right
office isn't, it doesn't touch kids per se.
Yeah.
So.
There's always bigger needs.
The
right?
biggest, I think the
Yeah,
deal would be kind
totally
of like,
understand.
like some of
Segregation
the
of
schools that
duties.
are getting bad press as a function
Yeah.
of, and so we try to build in compensating controls like bringing the expense reports and
That's how we do it.
Yeah.
you do the best you can, but yeah, as we get bigger and if you were to have some more people in the financial office, but it really takes 3 or 4 people to be
Right.
able
They only want, for example, I do payroll and I also write checks, very minimal checks, but I do write payroll checks. And then I do enter receipts in the system. Well, in the perfect world, the payroll person doesn't touch any of they don't reconcile the bank statement. They only do payroll, okay? Only one person reconciles the bank statements, only one person enters the receipts. And so it's very segregated. So it just, in our world, it just doesn't. Yeah.
So ideally, there would be no ability to conduct a transaction from start to finish. And so that's pretty difficult
It's
to do.
more
And then
just
you have to have
adding
someone,
half
if somebody
staff
shows up
instead of
sick,
3
then
people.
somebody else has to be able
Yeah,
to do
checks don't
each
go out
of
that
the
day. Yeah.
2 or 3 steps that
We
are
just
Yeah.
have to hire
involved in
Gail
it.
as staff. And then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody in our office does, whether, like Jen, she records all the checks when they come through, and she does have some responsibilities because she is a body and in the office. So if you are a body, well, except the administration, we don't, but, if you're a business person in the office and you have, we give them a responsibility of some kind of, but we do the best we can.
Okay, thanks.
This DCAT credit recovery.
It's a renewal,
Yep.
outstanding, a program that I think we would be silly if we didn't jump into it again this year.
All right, and we just need an approval here. This is a grant opportunity, is that right?
Yeah, a continuation of what we currently have.
Yeah.
So
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, stands approved. Thank you all. And then we have an early graduation request from a gentleman who wants to move to, to Chicago for some
Yes, we have
sports?
professional skater.
Yeah.
Oh, those skate with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
professional skater, and it looks like it has endorsement of our high school principal, Mr. Vanderpool. Is there any discussion on that?
I'm in favor, but I have a question. How do we know if he completes that requirement that he and his parents have indicated? Do they do that through our district? Is it like, do we actually award a diploma knowing that they're short 3 classes? I was just curious as I read
You
through.
wouldn't be awarded a diploma.
Until he'd have to complete.
So he just will not attend our school. He'll complete those courses either online or through Edgenuity, and then at that time we would issue a diploma.
Yes.
Okay.
But he can't get a diploma before he's done all that.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty excited for him.
Put him back in the gold
So
medal.
moved.
No.
Yeah. Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, great. Jordan is on his way to Chicago. It's exciting. We have the annual cross-country summer camp.
Move approval.
Do you need approval for that?
Second.
Where actually is this?
It's in California.
Well, that's where the address was.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
I thought it was
actually
in
in,
California.
No, it's,
it's here. It's,
I guess I'd have a
actually-
little bit of concern with
Yeah.
that.
It's gonna be
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I just thought
It's
it
not,
was
it's,
California.
let's say Minnesota.
That's just.
Oh, it's in Minnesota.
Okay, all right.
but you said you think about joining the cross-country team?
Well, if they're going to
Yeah.
California, maybe.
I thought it was just a great
Elm
deal.
Village,
I
or
looked
where
up
is
the
that?
cost and I was like.
I didn't see anywhere on there, it's just all the agreements are through a company in California, so I thought that might be a little excessive, even though they're awesome.
They have to run out there, that's the thing.
Oh, okay. Forrest Gump, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry, duh.
It's just, all I saw was Clover Woods, so.
I saw it here someplace, and I guess it was the same place that it was every year,
Mhm.
and now I'm trying to
Well, I
remember.
thought they went to
It's up in
Boone every
Minnesota,
year.
right?
Didn't they go to the Boone camp?
I think they switched, I thought it
Last
was 2
year?
years ago.
Okay.
Just look it up on your phone.
Petaluma, no.
Sorry, okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's, maybe it was Boone.
I guess I was just not being in favor of them
Well,
going
we
all the
do
way
go
to
to
California
Minnesota
for
for
camp.
something.
But it is in,
We're gonna do
yeah,
that.
yeah, sorry, it's in the next.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it must be, or ran by the camp from California.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sorry, John, did you make
I
a
move
motion?
approval, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have both? Yeah, you have a second.
And then, sorry, we have Deb.
John, and then second by Deb.
Deb, yep, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, stands approved. Excellent. All right, next up we have the first reading of the board policies. Again, this is first reading, so we're not taking any action on it tonight. I really love the format that you sent this out in, Lindsay. I thought this was great. It showed in one copy the red lines, the additions that we had. Just speaking on behalf of the committee, I do not want to read this tonight. If you have questions, I'd love for you to bring those prepared questions next time we meet to talk about this. There are really no significant changes here. Some of these are revised in IASB due to legal action or due to constraints. I mean, there's nothing here that is that we haven't talked about before. So anyway, zero discussion on this tonight. I hope that's okay. We will take that up if you have anything at the second reading or next meeting.
Yeah, and point number 7.
There's 2 misspelled words in point number 7, policy 204, code of ethics, just heads up, so.
Before it comes back to us.
Where's that, John?
So you see, I agree to think through probably
Oh.
facts, right?
Yeah, thank
Through
you.
the facts. And
The
points
facts,
of
yep.
view presented in the meeting and not to promise in advance of the meeting, not
No,
vetting.
Metting, yeah.
How to vote in. So I just saw those 2.
Thank you for pointing those out.
Yeah.
Especially because if those go out to the website, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was one more too.
Another typo?
No. There was one other thing I thought that didn't fit. Oh, I know, in the cell phone policy, that last paragraph underneath the bullet points we talk about should be used as an alternative. I think that was when cell phones were expensive. I was wondering if
Yeah.
you could delete that whole bit there. I just don't think cost is an issue
Oh,
with
cell
regard
phones
to
should not be
types
used as
of
an alternative.
communication any longer. So I read
that's-
that. I thought, yeah, that probably can go.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Back when you're using that.
Really, the only thing we added was a couple
Yeah.
of people that received it. That's a
Yeah.
good point, John.
Yeah. No, I was
Being sensitive about it, since they're not, yeah.
might be something.
I'm just
There we
gonna
go.
highlight
No, I
the
appreciate that.
changes.
Yeah. We should see that.
Right, but it's gonna be the same size whether you use it or not, yeah. So.
Yeah, in fact, you.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's funny. That's probably been there for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, by the minute.
What, 2000, yeah.
All right, and then I'm just, Vic had called me, sorry Lindsay, I'm sure you have stuff you could add to this too, but Vic had called me last night saying, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it down to the board meeting due to ongoing conferences. I want to be there to support my staff, but I do want to talk about the high school assistant principal contract. So just two quick things on this. One, if we do want him, he said he could come down if we want to talk to him about anything specific here. Secondarily, on behalf of sort of Vic and the team, they invited me to come to this, to be a part of this hiring process, which I thought was excellent. They had, I think, 70 or 80 applicants total. Sorry, I have these numbers actually in front of me. They had 80, I think it's 80 applicants total. Let me look this up so I'm not misquoting it. Sorry, 70 applicants total for this job posting. They whittled it down to 12. They did phone screens in, and then last Wednesday was Thursday? Wednesday, thank you. They brought in 4 in person, and those 4 people, I thought this whole process was running really well. They brought 4 in, they had an hour with the admin team and myself in which they did a small presentation to us because a lot of their job focus is going to be on professional development and assessment of teachers, so they ran through a professional development time with us. Then we had a large question and answer time with them. They met with, for a half an hour with students and a half an hour with, or a full hour maybe with staff, and then also had a building tour, and then spent some time with Gail talking about some of the sort of contractual components of their job. Out of that was a fantastic recommendation, kind of from across all these groups for the person that was in our board packet here. Cindy Bennett is her. Bassett. Sorry, she's watching this. And again, this was recommended from all of the groups. So I thought it was really fantastic. We have this in our packet. You can see more of her information in the contract we're offering her. But and then Lindsay and we were there. All 4 of us actually were there as part of this process. So if you have any other questions, I'd love to talk about it. But I just want to say, and I would have said this if he was here, but I thought Vic had put together, and whoever else, Carrie, I don't know if you're a part of this, put together a really tremendous interview process.
It's the same interview process that we used when we did Mike. It is almost exactly the same. So, I mean, it's that same format with, and we just really utilize that day to maximize them, so we weren't taking a lot of people's time from the people that were part of that interview process, but to also get the information that we needed to pick the right candidate.
I'm excited that you think that we found a good person. I feel a little removed based on past experience and things like the job description, because it's a brand new position. And I kind of feel that although I'm in favor of the position, I think I would have liked to have seen a job description and known maybe that this process was occurring before all of a sudden we're going to hire. It doesn't mean that I'm not all in favor and that I won't, vote for this person. But I think in the future, as we grow and as we're adding positions that we may not have before, it might be beneficial to the board to know really what we've decided this person should do. I just kind of feel like the cart's ahead of the horse in a lot of things right now because there's so many things going on. And so I just for whatever it's worth, I felt very detached from this process.
Could you email that to us, Carrie, what that process is? I know the last time I asked for that and haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, so, no, we've got that. I will get that to you.
I think, this is the, and I'm good with the process. I just want to see it in writing so I know what it is, and I'm good with the candidate, so I don't have any problem. And I believe the process is fine, but I just would like to see it as well.
Yeah. Kim, one thing to think about for what you were saying, because I think that's a perfectly fine request, is what do we want to see? Because we had that, was it 2 meetings ago or 3 meetings ago? I think it was in December. We had a really nice long conversation around the positions they were looking to add. I take it based on what you're saying, though, that that's great, but then now that we get to the place where we're actually doing those hirings, we want to see what is the specific like responsibilities that people are hiring. I just want to make sure we're giving
no,
good
but
advice.
new
like,
position,
back
I think it's a
when we
different
were
way
talking
to-
about it, it was, well, we don't know yet if it'll be an
Got it.
assistant principal or a dean of students and what their responsibilities are going to be, but we know that we need this.
Yeah.
So now we're going to put someone on the payroll for a significant chunk of money, right? And well worth it, right? But I'm sure that one of us will have a parent come to us and say, hey, tell me about this position. And I know nothing about what we've decided this person should do.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, yeah,
if they're
and
going to be the one with the paddle on the wall, or, you know,
Yeah.
I know,
think
you don't have those
From my
anymore.
perspective too, I was just looking
Yeah.
for that, the job description, I was the one that asked, but, because I was looking to see what, does it help reduce the strain on any other area? Or is this really just truly gonna benefit the high school? You know what I mean? So just
Yeah.
those details that kind of help to tell that story. So I agree, I don't think I should be knee deep into the hiring process by any means,
Right.
but it was just more of an understanding of how will this person serve the high school, the district, that thing is more of an understanding of it.
And as we
It is an
grow,
impressive
yeah,
process.
and as we grow and grow and grow,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of thought is put into things, but sometimes all of a sudden, you know, we have the opportunity to hire, and I don't want us just plugging. I want to know that there's intent, and that we've really thought through. This is going to take some from our counseling staff, or some from Vic, or some from whatever. So, and you know, I know that I won't be here next time that you hire an administrator, but I think that when we're adding those positions, that it's important that we at least see a job description.
Okay, no, that's perfect. I'm not even disagreeing. I just want to make sure we have a clear request
Yep.
for our admins on that one.
Now, I'm excited that we have a big pool and that you all, yeah,
Job
feel good
description.
about it.
For
We had
new
So
positions.
we're
very
gonna-
qualified
For new
people.
positions.
We're gonna add at least one, if not two new positions that are not admin. Do you want to see a job description?
Great question.
I mean, that's.
So these are-
No, I think we go admin level and.
Okay, I just wondered because
Yeah, no, I think.
we have
yeah,
those in there.
Yeah, because you guys
That's fine.
run the school,
Right,
but I think
right.
when we're talking about admin level.
That's fine.
And it really just goes to our ability to help tell the same story,
Sure.
right? You know, like, and you wouldn't do that for a teacher. You're like, of course, we're putting another teacher in front of your kids. But when it's admin, not that I don't support it. I did back in December, and I still do, but I can't tell that story. Oh, is that how will they react?
Yeah.
Well, anytime you have a position that is not directly with students, people do want to know what that role is. So I think what you're saying makes sense.
Yeah, it's always, why wasn't it?
Another thing, and this is probably more in the strategic planning, but I'll plant it the seed here just because it's a good time to do it. We, in a lot of our leadership positions, I know there was one bullet point in there about kind of leadership and creating climate and culture, but you might want to think about all of the admin positions as well as this associate principal position as to what you would expect for them as far as, you know, creating engagement, climate and culture and leadership. And it's usually some, you know, fairly generic language, but what I've been challenging some of the senior people we hire is you're to create the culture, not be subject to it. And so kind of getting that message out, and I always think, you know, when people look at job descriptions, that's a great place to have it, because now it's changed it to, hey, I'm looking to my boss to create, you know, this leadership and climate and culture. But no, that's the expectation of whoever those key employees that you guys think can do that, and just kind of think of that as you revise your job descriptions. And it only came up as a function of that job description coming across my desk. And it did have one in there that kind of addressed it, but to be intentional about, you know, what you would want to hold those people to. And I really see it in a lot of, you know, what Vic's, you know, really putting out there. I mean, I can see that he's really holding that top of mind. Not that everyone else isn't, but I can really see it in his communications.
I absolutely agree with you, right? Like when we hire leaders and high-level staff, that we need them to be pulling that culture up, leading that example, all those things. I think, and what's interesting is like I skimmed the job description partially because I was there talking to Vic and what he's looking for, and I think I want to pull out like 3 parts of the interview process, 3 specific questions. One was around I don't have this in front of me, but like one was around like how do you continue to put students first, right? How do you sort of think about every student every day, and like give us an example of how you practice it. That was one question, and I think all 4 candidates answered that really well. Second question was how do you make decisions, and talk to us about that process, right? And we're not saying like, hey, what are you ordering for lunch, right? We're talking about like big decisions, specifically the kind one that are thoughtful, measured, you have time to act on. The other ones were like not crisis, but in that mode of like you got moments to make this decision. So that was the second question. And the third one is what happens when people disagree with that decision? Because that's going to happen too, and give us examples. And so all 4 candidates were able to work through sort of a real practical way of kind of getting at like, all right, how do you go? So at a personal level, I'd like to see some of that stuff surface in the job description, because the job description was kind of like blah compared to the actual interview process was far more like teasing out some of that practical component of what you're talking about. So I don't know how to marry those things together, but certainly speaking on behalf of Vic, like that's on his mind, and he structured this process to sort of surface a lot of that stuff.
Okay, good.
So anyway, we're going to approve. Sorry, I need a motion to approve the hiring of this assistant principal.
So this person accepted, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, they accepted the offer late last week. Is that right? Yeah.
And we want to approve that contract as a part of that, right?
You want to
Yeah.
do it, or is it part of it?
The contract detail I included in at the very bottom here.
Oh, okay.
So this is the detail of what that contract would consider.
How many days does what's Vic's contract days?
230, I think.
230, and then 220. The elementary is 220, Vic's is 230, and this is going to be 210.
The reason that this was 210 was a lot of our summer days, what Vic is doing is more planning of schedules and stuff, and that wouldn't necessarily be what would be needed in this position. And that's where that came from.
Would she report to you or Vic directly? I mean, I know obviously everybody reports to you, but I mean, would that go up through Vic, or would that go to?
Directly reports to Vic, evaluated from both Vic and myself.
And the expectation was she'll be participating in the school board meetings as well, if I recall.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten to that much detail yet, but I would think so.
Sorry, maybe I asked that of Vic, independent of the process. I was just
That's
asking
fine.
what his thoughts were on that.
I think, yeah, and if I recall, he was talking about that on occasion she'll come.
Yeah.
He won't, and maybe not both, but either or.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll move approval.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, stands approved. Welcome, Cindy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like that should be
I
something great.
Yeah, I don't want to make it maybe beginning of school year. And then, all right, moving on to the financial report scale.
I just want to go through a couple of things. The overall, the timing of the revenues really threw some of these figures into the red. So as I go through this, you know, it's a good reminder for me of tweaking the timing of the monthly to see, not that I'm going to change anything, but to see over compared to last year, is there a trend, or is it just a one-time thing? So as I just made a note here that it just reminds me that as I go through this and get more familiar with the document, that I'll be reviewing and tweaking if needed on, because the revenue is mainly, you know, I can't decide when we're going to receive the funds, but as a total, you know, is it consistently receiving it? Am I getting it the wrong month? And so as I get more familiar with this, I will be looking at those and to see if there's a steady trend of that.
This is a fantastic report. It takes you 2 minutes to say, okay, here's where the variance is.
Yep.
It's on these 2 lines.
Right.
And then next month I can look and say, did we get it last month? No, we didn't get it last month, so I'll be looking for it in March. But it's really
And the first thing I thought of is this is the time that we get our revenues, and mainly, I mean, it is the tuition. And so, and I was looking at that, and the story that I'm going to tell you now is when I bill for, and we're talking tuitions like open enrollment and special ed. So open enrollment is pretty cut and dry. It's that special ed tuition that we estimate the half of the year, like 90 days. But we know a student may not cost, or excuse me, it's much higher than half. Because we bill on actual, so where you catch up is in June. You know, because then we bill for the whole bill for the whole year. We subtract off our estimate of 90 days. But then it could be, the expense could be more like 3/4 instead of 50%. But you do that at the end. So again, I'll reflect and see, is this working on how I'm doing it, on the details of that. So that's what I'm going to do.
On the tuition transportation, how does that build in on that line? And I wasn't familiar with that. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you just estimate on, open enrollment it's that, it's that special ed piece to it, because you bill for actual expenses. So I'm not going to repeat myself, but that's what you kind of estimate. So then you're going to catch up in June for the actual expense, take off your estimate here, and then you'll receive more in June. So and taxes on property, on taxes, I just received some taxes, and I received a lot more in March than February is. Apparently we're, overestimating on the amount of taxes that can be collected, but that, so anyway, that's just, I won't go into more detail, but that's what, the revenue is the collection of the timing of that. And then the expenses are basically for year to date, they're on track, pretty much. I did want to mention that as we go through it, and you'll see on the bills, are building their grounds. I mean, the utilities, we're going to feel pressure there. Because of the snow removal and the fuel and it's been a costly year.
Yeah.
So that's a couple things and then so then as you go through the other thing, I wanted to, cash balances look good. Papala went through that. The activity fund it's rolling. On activity there, lots going on during the year. Nutrition was a little disappointing this month, but they're getting action. They're getting, but that is bringing on some new things that there's a lot of kids spending a lot of money. Can we collect the funds?
Yeah.
So we've got kids buying a la carte.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we got to make sure we're making good balances, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so with that's good. We're bringing in new food, trying new things, but we still need to increase the participation of that standard meal, because that brings in three sources of revenue: our local, federal, and state. But if all they decide to do is eat a la carte, well, then we miss out on federal, state.
Yeah.
But we can't force them to eat. So there's that balance there. But that's what creates a lot of, that we get the best payback there.
Yeah.
So I think, we're introducing more different foods, and it's not going to happen overnight. So she has which had met with 7 students one day, brought them in, talked about they're excited, they want to eat here, so that's good. So just hopefully we can slowly make those changes. So, they're bringing in new a la carte items at the high school. They're selling out, but hopefully we can get the money. And we don't have negative balances. So we'll deal with that. We've talked about some things we put into action and maybe change things up. And
I like reading Deb's report as well, right? Yeah, that was really well done.
She's engaged, and
Absolutely.
I send her the financial reports, and you know, it bothers her where we're at, and and she's trying to get buy-in with her employees, and that's a struggle.
Yeah.
Very, trying that team and trying to tell. The other day, she had to remind them that this is not a service. It is supposed to be a profitable business.
Well, if you gave her back 5 days, great. Her numbers.
It doesn't look so bad, does it? So, yes.
Yeah.
She did a nice job presenting last month. I got a real positive feeling.
We have some good things.
Does she work over the summer? I mean, not work that.
She has a longer contract.
200-day contract.
I'm excited to see what she can do with a little time,
And she's excited, and I think we get through this review in April.
Yeah.
I think she's already feeling a little bit better because she's talked to the Department of Nutrition. So, but anyway, that was. Any other questions about that? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And then nobody's here. No one's here for public forum. I'll last them all. And then under the consent agenda, I think we talked through a lot of the things.
I just want to, on the bills, the very first one on the activity, I just kind of wanted to remind, there's Iowa High School Athletic Association and Iowa Girls Union, when we have those state games, we have to send all the money to the state, and then they send a little tiny check back to us. So that was on there. Anytime, I never thought about it, but I thought, well, anytime you see a negative, that means that we had to void a check, and we've had some of those because of weather. So I didn't know if you would know that, and I thought I just wanted to mention that. Mainly in the general fund, it's mainly payroll items, tuition paid, of course, we're receiving and we're paying, and our budget for snow removal is $50,000, and that was increased when we hired Ramsey because I guess we were getting a heck of a deal before that, and so we didn't have. And so we increased our budget, increased it to $50,000 for the current year. And because this is Bo's second year doing it, well, not only his bill's 42 in here, and I just opened his envelope for February 10th through February 27th, and we have to add another $36,000.
There's been a lot of stuff.
We're at $78,137. So when we feel the pressure, when I said we may feel the pressure in that buildings and grounds, but we have to operate, right? So hopefully it's done.
Do we have to plan on days we don't have school?
So we're working on, it's unbelievable, and you guys know, I don't know, we're trying to pull out and build back some of these activities, and hopefully that they'll be a good partner with us, and maybe get some on those weekends when we don't have school, when there's activities here, to reach out and say, hey, we'd like to bill you, and here's the bill, and hopefully it's received well, and maybe recoup some of those. So.
I sent them the whole 36,000, see what they do.
So.
Thank you for that. Is there anything else on the consent agenda that y'all like to pull out and talk about?
Move approval.
All right, second with Deb, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, consent agenda is approved. Thank you all. Real quick, I'll just review the calendar items. Sorry, Lindsay, I'm trying to prevent you from having to talk too much. I feel real bad. As you all know, thank you again, John, March 14th. That's this Thursday, 11 to 2 p.m. We're going to sit down, work through all the data. There's those handouts in the back. We have them here. Lunch is going to be provided. It's going to be delicious. I heard Mr. Ribs on the menu. I'm just kidding. I have no idea what it is. Just kidding. Sorry. We have our normal board meeting on April 8th, but remember that's also a published meeting date. So we need to a quorum, which sounds great, and then May 13th is our regular board meeting. Is there anything else that you all can think about for the calendar that we may not be including?
I think, as you guys know, I sent out that message. I think I'll be reaching out to you guys for a meeting in mid-April.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yep.
For the formal evaluation.
Thank you for that.
But I don't think we should do it right now. We can wait.
Yeah, we can figure out a date.
Yeah.
That's a while out.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, with that, do I have a move for adjournment?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Let me turn this camera off, and then we're gonna have a quick meeting on the for negotiation.
Thank you for coming. I'm out of here.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks for being here.